Coming up.
If you work for the Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service, you are a god amongst men.
They're the heroes in the sky.
They help people on their darkest day.
Saving lives 24/7.
Can't stay silent on this any longer. They got away with it for too long.
But what's really going on back at base?
Retaliation, retribution.
That degree of depravity is disgusting.
Shocking allegations about one of Australia's most esteemed organisations.
I'm shocked. It's putting the safety of the crew, the patient and the community at risk.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
Whenever you look up into the sky and see a Westpac rescue helicopter flying by, chances are you'll spare a thought for the heroes on board, dedicated to saving lives 24/7. People often believe the iconic choppers are all part of one operation, but in fact there are a number of different rescue entities dotted around the country. Unfortunately, not all of them are as heroic as we think. Tonight, the Northern New South Wales Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service faces damning allegations of a toxic and hazardous work environment, relentless bullying, sexual harassment, and, equally troubling, a lack of safety compliance. This joint 60 Minutes Sydney Morning Herald and Age investigation is reported by Eric Bagshaw.
Whether it's a drowning, a lost and injured bushwalker,
Next web departed base with paramedics on board.
or a crew stuck in a storm.
3, 2, 1, hold. Come forward, 5.
For 50 years, the revered Northern New South Wales Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service has saved thousands of lives in some of the worst disasters from Newcastle to the Queensland border. It's why Stacy Price joined the organisation 7 years ago.
If you work for the Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service, you are a god amongst men. They are idolised for the things they do for their community.
Why did you want to be a part of that?
I wanted to help the community. I wanted to be a small cog, but in a big machine that help people on their darkest day.
But the pride of working for such an esteemed service soon vanished, as Stacy was shocked at what she says was the organisation's cavalier attitude to its staff and safety. Tonight, we go behind the veneer of the iconic Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service to expose allegations that could put patients' lives at risk.
They were not interested in doing the paperwork. They were not interested in filling out the online forms. They were not overly interested in conducting all the assessments. They need to address their safety concerns before something seriously goes wrong.
For the first time, Stacey's bravely speaking out, raising allegations about an endemic culture of bullying and harassment, fueling a dangerous contempt for safety at Westpac Rescue. And she isn't the only one. In fact, 11 other employees have also blown the whistle on the organisation. But they're either too scared to be interviewed or have been gagged by non-disclosure agreements. Why do you want to go public?
Honestly, I don't. If I could hide in the shadows, I would. But I can't stay silent on this any longer.
And where does this area service here in terms of where do the flights go?
They can actually fly across all the Northern New South Wales contract area, depending on...
Stacy Price was no hero pilot or paramedic at the Newcastle base of Westpac Rescue. Instead, she was the first female employed to train and certify its staff on all things safety in the dangerous job of helicopter rescue. But what she quickly found out was that safety wasn't a priority. When she raised concerns about compliance, she alleges she was bullied by a group of men who were determined to protect their patch.
I was never really accepted. In their mind, I was impacting or encroaching on their territory, and they didn't like being told what to do, particularly by a female. Lots of inappropriate conversations and blokey man jokes.
How bad did it get?
Pretty bad. The joke used to be that, it's just the way we are here. You'll get used to it.
But Stacy never got used to it. So, in an act of self-protection, she started secretly documenting every incident in a journal. At work, she continued to face the onslaught, which she alleges only became more offensive and explicit.
I was training out on the helipad, and the task was to lift this 300-tonne cage into a dangerous goods storage unit. Two of these gentlemen, not all of them, just two, started to talk about driving the box into my container over and over and over again. Force it in, ram it in, drive it in. She's okay with it. It's okay to be rough.
How do you continue after comments like that?
Grit your teeth.
While they joke about ramming a box
Yep.
inside of you.
Yep. Ramming the box into my anus because it was a dangerous goods container.
For Stacy, rock bottom came after one particular incident of alleged sexual harassment that is so sickening, it's difficult to hear.
I'd been away training, all men. I was asked by an individual if I did them all together, am I a pig on a spit? Do they take me one at a time and the others watch? How do I get it? You must be getting some dick.
I was pretty shocked to understand just how appalling the behaviours are.
After taking on everyone from billionaires like Lachlan Murdoch to outspoken politicians like Pauline Hanson, human rights lawyer Michael Bradley is not easily outraged or offended. But Stacy's case is one that disturbs even this champion of the downtrodden.
It's not the image you expect when you think Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service.
Well, no. It's incredibly disappointing. Like, I would have assumed it was, a great organisation and that the people, working there are all heroes. But I think if you have a group of men who feel that's okay, that, they can get away with that, then it tells you that's an organisation that has completely lost its way, that it is tolerating that degree of depravity. You might expect to see that in a prison yard, but not in a public service organisation.
Stacy wasn't the only one suffering. Highly decorated military pilot Susanna Henderson became one of the first women to fly at Westpac Rescue in 2022.
She was lovely. I said to her, good luck, I wish you every success, because you're going to be up against a really tough boys' club here. And if there's anything you need, I'm here for you.
Susanna claims she was marked from the start when her male instructor boldly told her he was keeping a paper trail for her dismissal. 6 months later, she was sacked. After taking her case to the Fair Work Commission, it found her dismissal was harsh and unreasonable, ordering Susanna to be reinstated. She left Westpac Rescue soon after, but continues to work in the industry.
She was up against it.
She was, from the very beginning. They set her up to fail.
Within a month of Susanna Henderson's sacking, complaints from both women and men escalated. This whistleblower's letter, signed by 11 employees, almost 10% of the total staff, was sent straight to the chairman of the rescue service. It contains some extraordinary claims about the behaviour inside Westpac Rescue, including endangerment of the health and safety of others, inappropriate workplace behaviour, long-term victimisation, degrading staff, and a culture of fear that targets those who speak out.
Well, it says that it's top to bottom broken. If 10% are so disaffected that they are prepared to, step up as whistleblowers and put their hands up and say this is not okay, then we know that's going to be the tip of the iceberg.
Among the allegations made by whistleblowers and others are disturbing safety breaches. An engineer dragging a helicopter over a manhole, leaving it stuck in a pit. A training exercise gone wrong, tearing a winch from the helicopter fuselage. And an ambulance arriving with a critically unwell patient while a party of 60 drinks champagne in the same hangar.
For too long, they've been able to sweep things under the rug, cover them up. Lives have been threatened. Critical safety risks or concerns have been covered up.
What makes matters worse is this is all allegedly going on in a publicly funded organisation. For the past 10 years, Westpac's Northern New South Wales service has been run on a taxpayer-funded contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And now they have plans to take on other rescue services around the country. As Stacey's lawyer, Michael Bradley wants to expose Westpac Rescue's alleged toxic behaviour before it receives another government contract.
These are things the public is entitled to know, and the government should be forced to reckon with because they're spending our money on this service.
Coming up, more allegations of alarming critical safety breaches, and the pioneer of Australian helicopter rescue calls for an investigation.
It's putting the safety of the crew, the patient and the community at risk.
It's 1973 in Sydney, and Ian Batten is pioneering a new idea. The 28-year-old surf lifesaver has just talked the big end of town into sponsoring a helicopter to rescue swimmers.
So I was able to convince the Bank of New South Wales, which became Westpac, to give me $25,000. It had never been done before. I recruited a team of volunteer lifesavers to become the rescue crew, chartered a helicopter.
Back then, the very first rescue was rudimentary. Ian jumped off the chopper in his Speedos, holding just a floatie.
In that first 7 months, we actually rescued 27 people from the ocean, as well as flying 12 people to hospital and carrying out 35 search and rescue missions.
The Sydney-based Care Flight helicopter was urgently requested.
Ian went on to become the driving force behind the Australian helicopter rescue industry.
We've now achieved a world standard of aviation service,
setting up the renowned Care Flight service nationwide. And it was Ian who developed critical safety guidelines for the chopper rescue team, made up of the pilot, aircrew officer, and from New South Wales Health, a doctor and a paramedic.
How important is the teamwork within that environment?
When you are operating in an area where normal safety is reduced because of adverse weather, because of flood, fire, big seas, you need to achieve equivalent safety by all members of that team working together, having respect and understanding of each other, and being in one as one.
But at Northern New South Wales Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service, 12 whistleblowers within the company claim it's the exact opposite. They say behind the revered rescue organisation lies a misogynistic and toxic workplace with a careless attitude to safety compliance.
This is not just one bad word. This is not just one bad experience. This is 6 years of it. It breaks you. They'd cover it up and go, oh, that didn't really happen the way you thought.
For 6 years, Stacy Price drove from Sydney to Newcastle to work as the organisation's first female registered trainer. It was a job she was extremely proud of, until she says it all went horribly wrong. Stacy is now going public with these allegations after giving up on her complaints being heard within the government-funded organisation.
Every time I would get in the car to drive up, I knew I was coming up to what I kind of described as hell.
Do you think taxpayers would be shocked to hear about some of the things that are going on inside the Westpac Rescue Service?
Yes. They don't see behind the curtain to the toxic culture, to the bullying, the harassment. The safety concerns. They are moving the helicopter out of the hangar.
Incredibly, Stacy says in 2023, she overheard a chopper pilot saying he would like to kill a colleague.
In that instance, a senior member of staff tell a room full of people, a New South Wales ambulance paramedic and an aircrew officer working for the service, that he would willingly kill another member of staff.
How did Westpac respond to that?
The pilot continued flying. To my knowledge, there was no psychological assessment of his fitness to fly. But I do know as a result, the person that had their life threatened left the organisation.
Westpac Rescue dismissed the incident as a joke, but Ian Badham is appalled at the pilot's behaviour. Even though he's now retired, Ian is still entrenched in the aeronautical industry, working as a volunteer at the Aviation Museum in Wollongong.
How upsetting is it for you to hear these allegations?
There is no place in any rescue helicopter for conflict in a crew. Conflict can reduce safety, can reduce the trust of the community in these operations.
During our investigation, it became clear that there was a toxic divide between pilots and some of the medical crew that worked inside the helicopters. One disturbing incident involved a rescue mission where the life of a patient was allegedly put at risk after a paramedic was told to hurry up by a pilot, not once, but 3 times. The patient was suffering from multiple organ failure, but the pilot allegedly wanted to be home in time for the end of his shift.
I've never heard of anything like this. The only occasions when rescues need to be hurried up is if there's adverse weather coming in, or on the clinical side, if that patient is deteriorating and needs to be transferred urgently to more appropriate care.
As the organisation's training coordinator, Stacy says she also uncovered compliance breaches that put staff and patients at risk. In one case, it's alleged 2 doctors who had done their training went on to fly for 2 years without the correct safety certification for the dangerous aerial operation of winching down from the chopper to treat a patient.
Whilst in practice, they were competent at the skill. They just didn't have that piece of paper.
But if they don't have this piece of paper, are they eligible to actually fly on these missions?
No, that's a breach of the contract. While a piece of paper might seem irrelevant to most people, for compliance, it's pretty critical. If things go very wrong, and they could have at any time, it's a high-risk operation, this would go to the coroner's court and they would ask questions about their qualifications or their certificate to fly.
In practice, if someone's called out on a job and they don't have the certificate, should they be out there performing that rescue?
Unless you are trained and certified, there is no place in a rescue helicopter for a person with good intent. You must have the certification to ensure that the standards are being not only met, but met very well.
Worse still, Stacy alleges that after she raised the issue, someone had gone into the system and created certificates, backdating them to cover up the massive oversight and to pretend they had always existed.
What does that say about how Westpac Rescue is operating?
From a compliance point of view, I was horrified. Who else was there that hadn't been issued their qualification, that was out there doing a mission-critical job? And it was not long after that in good conscience, I couldn't stay.
This year, the Northern New South Wales Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service is extravagantly celebrating 50 years of life-saving missions with not 1, but 3 balls. At the same time, it's also negotiating for a new taxpayer-funded 10-year contract worth up to $500 million with New South Wales Ambulance. But before any future government funding is committed, industry veteran Ian Badham is urging the state's health department to launch an investigation.
The regulatory authorities must investigate without delay to ensure that not just government, but the community can be assured that the very best help will be available to them when they need it.
New South Wales Ambulance told us it was taking the allegations very seriously, while the state's health minister, Ryan Park, urged all affected staff to report their complaints to the government regulator, Safe Work New South Wales.
What does the government need to do?
I think there needs to be a serious investigation from the top down. If they then decide they are still the best operator, so be it. They've made a decision with all of the information. And I don't think they have that at this point.
Stacy Price eventually resigned from Westpac Rescue this year, but she cannot forget the 6 years of torment she says she suffered within the organisation. Now, Stacy's determined to expose what she says is going on inside one of Australia's most renowned emergency services. It's a brave decision, considering she's up against the heroes of the sky.
I won't accept this anymore. For me and for everyone else that's still there. And for anyone else who is watching this that's suffering in silence wherever they are. I won't walk past this anymore. I won't suffer in silence.
No one from the Northern New South Wales Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service would agree to be interviewed for this story. In a statement, they denied there were endemic safety or cultural issues within the organisation. They did, however, apologise unreservedly to anyone who felt the service had fallen short of what was expected of it. They also acknowledged they had room for improvement and would strive to achieve that. Westpac, the main corporate sponsor of the rescue service, told us they've asked for an independent investigation into the issues we've raised. You can read the full statements on our webpage. Hello, I'm Amelia Adams. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minute segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.